All right. Hello, everyone. Welcome. It's Will from the Hermit's Lantern Tarot, and I'm just setting up a live stream here on this beautiful Sunday afternoon. What is today? Is the 19th of July. As per usual, today I'll be using my CBD Tarot de Marseille by the late Dr. Yoav Ben-Dov. All right, let me light a candle and burn some Palo Santo. And I see there's lots of stuff happening in the chat, which is fantastic. I'll get to that in just a moment. I hope everybody's having a nice weekend, resting up for the week to come. There we go. This stuff smells great. I love this stuff. Palo Santo. All right, I'll set that aside to burn out. I have got a cup of coffee here to keep me energized. I've been drinking a lot more coffee than tea lately. Often decaf, though. This one's half decaf. All right, so I will start shuffling in a moment, but let's take a look here at the chat and let me start compiling the free reading list for today. And so the way this works, for those of you who maybe don't know or who might be new, and welcome to any new folks. Hello, I'm Will. I'm going to look at the chat here and I'll compile the free readings list based on a first come, first serve basis. And then when it's your turn, I'll call your name up to 3 times. And if you're here, let us know and post your question. If you're not here, then I'll have to skip over you and move on to the next person, though, of course, I'd be happy to read for you in a future live stream. So I see that number 1, we have Country Love Homestead. Followed by Diamond Girl. Followed by Marta J. Followed by Jean. Followed by April. And then Tori Marie. And then Love Bee. Bukal. And Zozoya. And Blessings Y2Z. And that is going to be it. That will be a full afternoon of readings. And to answer your question, Zozoya, just one question. One question per person. I am available for paid private readings for those of you who might be interested in a more in-depth session or who have multiple questions or who don't want to wait around for me to get to you and want to do it on your own schedule. I also have donations open today, and so you can find the link for that in the video description or in the pinned chat message. And if you enjoy what I do here, or if the reading I do for you resonated and you want to show your appreciation, I appreciate any donations that you would care to offer. Okay, so let me hold up the list here. Hopefully you can find yourself and see more or less where you are on the list. And so we'll get going. We'll go from number 1 down to number 10, and then it's possible that I'll reopen the list, but it depends. If folks aren't here and I skip over them and I end up not doing 10 readings, maybe we'll have time for more. Otherwise, 10 is about as many as I can do usually before I start to get pretty tired. So Maria, unfortunately, I'm not going to be able to add you now. Maybe I could do it at the end of the session if other folks are not here, but okay, so the list is currently closed. Let me just post that. And then, as I say, I may be able to open it again, but, we'll just see how it goes today. Okay, so I want to just say a quick word before I get into doing the readings. I want to say a quick word about my tarot practice because, everybody reads cards differently. Those of us who read tarot and playing cards, which I also read, and Lenormand, which I also read. I've done playing cards on this channel too. I haven't done Lenormand. I don't feel proficient enough with it yet to do it for others, though I do it for myself every day. The Marseille Tarot is my bread and butter. This I feel like I know upside down and back and forth and left and right and everything. I, of course, started with Rider-Waite-Smith Tarot, like most people did decades ago. But for a number of reasons, which I won't get into right now, but maybe in a later live stream or video I will get into, I much prefer the Tarot de Marseille. And the main reason for that is I get better results with it. And for me, that's all that matters, right? Like, if someone else gets better results with the Rider-Waite-Smith, then they should use that, right? I get better results with the Tarot de Marseille. And so that's the one that I use, right? I occasionally, for myself, will use Rider-Waite-Smith decks or Rider-Waite-Smith inspired decks. Like, for example, if any of you might be familiar with the Terra Volatile from Portugal. I love that deck. I think it's beautiful, but I really only use it for myself occasionally. But what I wanted to get at was that my tarot practice, I think of my tarot practice as a secular tarot practice, in the sense that for me, it's not necessarily about spirituality. I think that it can be for some. For me, it's not necessarily about that. For me, it's more of a psychological practice. And so I want to bring that up just because I want to make sure that everybody sort of knows where I'm coming from, and if things that I'm saying during the reading maybe don't make sense, I hope that this will clarify a little bit. I'm very much inspired by Vincent Petisci's work, the late Vincent Petisci's work. And so, if any of you might be familiar with his YouTube channel, Tarot Maps, he's got some really excellent stuff in there. I've learned a lot from him. I think my practice is really different from his practice. But one thing that I really took from him and that I just want to shout out there is this idea of conceptual blending. He understood the tarot as a kind of psychological tool in which you have a problem in your life, right? And in order to address that problem, you come to this random deck of cards, and what the tarot does, according to Petisci, is it throws something totally random, totally other at your problem and forces you to solve your problem using this new information. And that's what conceptual blending is. And so for me, at its core, what the tarot does in its best sense, the tarot helps us solve problems in our life because it forces us to think and behave differently, right? So I think of the tarot as a tool for helping us to correct what may be harmful patterns that we have developed in our thinking and our behavior and so on. And it does that by throwing something totally random at us and forcing us to make sense of our problem with that random thing. So I just wanted to throw that out there. You can take it or leave it, obviously. You don't need to agree with me or believe the way that I believe in order for this to work. At least I don't think that that's necessary. But I just wanted to say a quick word about that before I got started so that you all can sort of have a sense of where I'm coming from with the tarot. All right. And yes, Jean, I prefer the Marseille over the Rider-Waite, although as I said, I learned on the Rider-Waite first. And the Radiant, yes, I have the Radiant Rider-Waite. It's beautiful. Yeah, and in fact, that was one of the first decks that I ever had was the Radiant. It's very pretty. Yeah. Okay, so let's get into the readings now, and that means we're starting with Country Love Homestead. And so if you are here, Country Love Homestead, go ahead and let us know and throw your question there in the chat. And meanwhile, I'm going to do some shuffling because I want to make sure the cards are nice and randomized. Does anybody else here use Marseille Tarot? I'm curious. And this will be the second call for Country Love Homestead. So if you're here, Country Love Homestead, let us know. Okay, I don't think we have Country Love Homestead. So Diamond Girl, if you are here, go ahead and let us know you're here and or just post your question in the chat. I'd also be curious for those of you who also read cards, if anybody reads playing cards. I love reading playing cards. Yeah, I called Country Love Homestead several times and I didn't get a response there, so I've skipped over them. So Diamond Girl, if you are here, you can post your question. This is the second call for Diamond Girl. And then next up, if Diamond Girl is not here, then next up will be Marta J. Maybe while we're waiting, I'll put on some Florida water. Okay, do we not have Diamond Girl either? If we don't have Diamond Girl, then Marta J. Marta, if you'd like to let us know that you're here. All right, Marta is here. Hi, Marta. So Marta says, I am currently experiencing a bad period in my life. I was fired and had a sad story in my love life. I would like to ask what will be in the future 3 months of my life. Okay. So we're kind of doing a general reading for Marta about what's coming up in the next 3 months. So let me shuffle the question into the cards. What will Marta's life be like for the next 3 months or so? Hi, Diamond Girl. If there's time at the end, I can try to add you back on. Okay, so for Marta, what will be in the future for Marta J the next 3 months? So 3 cards. We're doing 3 card readings today. All right. 5 cups. 2 cups. 10 batons. 5, 2, and 10. So whenever I do general readings, I tend to go back to basics. And so because I don't have I have very little context for the reading and for Marta's life and all of that. So she's said here in the chat that she was fired from her job and had a sad story in her love life. And so that's the only context that I've got in order to then make sense of this. And so something that I noticed first off is that we've got cups going from odd to even, right? From 5 to 2. And so it's a decrease in number, but 2 suggests 2 people getting together, right? So this can be an indication of a new relationship. It can also indicate that some physical pleasure comes into your life, right? With the 5s, we can think of the body because we have 4 limbs and our head. And so often the 5s come to represent the body in cartomancy and classical cartomancy anyways. It's very different, of course, in Rider-Waite-Smith decks. But we could see here, seeing the 5s going into the 2, this is like having a really good time with another person, right? So that's the first thing to notice, is the way that we've got the 5 to the 2, and that we're starting with cups. And of course, we always want to see cups. Cups are, think about the function of a cup. We use a cup to drink, to enjoy. Cups are at parties, to celebrate. Cups are good, right? But the string of cards, the 3 string, ends with a 10 of batons. Batons are more about pressure that we're under, obligations, duties, work, that kind of thing. And 10s are about something being completed or something being finished or done in some way, right? So I take all of this information. I'm sort of narrating to you all how I read this, right? Sort of for the purposes kind of instruction, because I can't help but sort of teach. So I would read this as being some really fun times that are like exhilarating with another person, but that maybe put too much pressure on you. Because with 10s, I do think it's too much, in the sense that 10 is the most you can have on any one of the pip cards, right? So I connect that with what I know of Marta's question, which is she was fired from her job, right? And had a sad story in her love life. And so as far as the love life stuff goes, I think there's a good chance there might be someone else popping up for you, right? Because of the cups that we see here from 5 to 2. This is like 2 people getting together to have a good time. Let's put it that way, right? But there may be pressure, or it may be, what's another way of putting it? It might be too much effort. And so it may be something that's short-lived. A one-sentence way of reading this would, I think, be a rebound relationship, right? Like, you know how after a relationship ends, sometimes we'll get back on the horse, so to speak, and date someone else, but it's the kind of thing where it's like a palate cleanser, and it doesn't necessarily last very long, but you kind of need that rebound relationship to sort of get back into the groove of dating again, right? And so I think that's the way that I would read this, right? Good times with another person, the 2 of you coming together to exchange good times, right? But then it becomes too much pressure, it's too much effort, it reaches a completion, right? So it's not necessarily something that's going to last super long. Since you did put a time frame of 3 months on here, right? We could think, and seeing the 10 coming at the end there, it's the kind of thing where I would think that by the end of those 3 months, it will have ended. So it's probably going to be a quick kind of thing. But that's how I would read this. As far as love life stuff would go. And the reason I am inclined to read these cards in terms of love is because 2 of the 3 cards are cups cards, right? And cups are the suit of love and relationships, that kind of thing. So if I were you, I might consider keeping an eye open for another person, right? Someone who you could date, but don't necessarily take it super seriously, right? And obviously, the other thing I should add here, especially for anyone who's new, is that in terms of predictive readings, and this is a predictive reading, right? Because we're talking about the future, 3 months, right? I don't think that any of this is set in stone, right? So it's not as though, from my perspective, my practice of reading the cards, I don't think that like this is fate and this is just how it is. I think this is one path that could manifest, right? So my suggestion would be keep an eye open for someone who you might be able to have some really good times with, right? But just know that it may not be the kind of thing that's going to last for a super long time, but that doesn't mean you can't share a good time with this person in the meantime. Okay, so that's Marta's reading, which brings us now to Jean. All right, and Jean asks, what are Kay's thoughts and feelings toward Jean? And this K person is this other person, I's business partner. Okay. And while I'm shuffling, I'll give my plug for my paid private readings, which you can find in the link tree in the video description. I am available for one-on-one video conferencing readings as well as pre-recorded audio readings. I also have donations open today. If you enjoy the channel and want to help support it, I would appreciate a donation if you can spare it. So we're reading for Jean. What are Kay's thoughts and feelings toward Jean? Okay. Kay's thoughts and feelings toward Jean. Here we go. 3 cards. All right. We've got the Le Bateleur, Magician, or the Juggler. 6 batons. And the World. So we know that there are multiple people involved here in the question, right? There's you, Jean, there's Kay, and then there's I. And so common sense suggests to me that this is you, the world, Jean, and that the magician must be Kay. Right? And so the magician or the juggler or le bateleur, however you want to say it, right? So, so what does, to sort of put your question into the context then of these cards, what does the magician think of this woman and the world card, right? That's sort of how we would reconfigure the question based on the cards that have come up. And so what do we see, right? We see you are over here sort of minding your own business. You've got other figures around you. You're self-reliant. You can take care of yourself. You're attractive. You've got everything put together. Often folks will say that she's dancing, right? If you see the way she's got like one foot on the ground and the other one's up and her hand's sort of out and her scarf is sort of blowing, she's having a good time, right? I don't know that he is thinking about you a lot at all. And I say that first because the gaze of the magician is just turned away from you, which makes me think that he's thinking about other things. And maybe what we'll do is look at the surprise card in a moment and see what is it that he's looking at, right? But I'm not sure that I don't think that you're a primary concern, right? And so if he's thinking about you at all, it's like as a kind of afterthought, right? He's busy thinking about something else right now. The other thing, though, is there's something between you, right? Which is the 6 batons. And so we could ask ourselves, well, what's between these two people, right? Between you and this other person, K. With 6s, we think of effort, like pressure, things like that. But the way I see this is a big X, right? Like it's blocked. And so it almost looks like a fence to me, right? Or like a gate that's up. And so that alongside the wreath surrounding this woman, I kind of think that he feels separated from you. I don't think he feels close to you. I think he feels like there's maybe a clear path where if he needed to or wanted to, he could consult with you about something. But I don't think he wants or needs to do that right now. Yeah. Let's look at the bottom card of the deck, the surprise card, and see what that is. He's thinking about someone else. It's the Page of Coins. Okay. So this guy K is not particularly concerned with you. To the extent that he thinks about you, you are distant from him, right? And you're like over here doing your own thing that is sort of like not involved with whatever it is that he's doing over here with his table. What he's interested in right now is whatever this guy with the coins is up to, right? So Page of Coins, this is a young or immature person who seems to be handling money. You mentioned there's a business involved here. It's a business partnership, right? So I think maybe this is I. Is there any way that K may be paying attention to the way that this other person I is handling money? Or if it's not money, it can also be ideas, right? And you say J and K are older than I. So then that would make sense because pages are the youngest, right? So then the page here would be the I. Although it's not necessarily young in terms of age. Usually it is, but it can also mean just immaturity, right? Like the Page of Coins could be someone who's immature with money, even if they're middle-aged or elderly, right? Not that that applies to your question, but yeah, so I think is there any way that K could be concerned about the way that I is spending money, or making plans with money or that kind of thing? Anyway, that's, I think, what his bigger concern is. And I think a secondary concern that's really out on the margins, and distant from his primary concern is thinking about you. But I think that he thinks that you're, attractive, self-sufficient, self-reliant, and like doing your own thing over here. One other thing to consider is the fact that this person K is showing up as the magician or le battleur. And so we could think about what does that mean in terms of how he sees himself in the context of the dynamic between the three of you? And so the good side of the Bateleur is this is someone who knows how to organize things. This is someone who knows how to arrange things, but who may have way too much going on. This is a very busy person, right? There are way too many objects on the table. And so he may feel like he's having to pay attention to too much right now, right? Like a little overwhelmed with that, even if it's something he's good at, right? One other possible thing to consider is the magician can be tricky, right? And so if this person K is showing up as the magician or Le Bateleur, he may think of himself as more intelligent or cunning or crafty than either you or I, right? And so that may influence the dynamic is like of the figures that show up in this reading, the Bateleur, the magician, is the one who's got the most cunning, the most intellect, right? He's the craftiest. Yeah. At least that's how he sees himself, because the question we asked is, what does he think? So all of this is sort of from his perspective. It doesn't reflect an objective reality. It's a story that he would tell himself about the dynamic between the three of you, right? So I think he thinks of himself as maybe the one who's working the hardest, but also the one who's the most cunning and crafty, right? And I think he's more concerned with finances and potentially how I is handling finances than he is with anything else. So Jean says that Jean stopped the page, from making a big financial decision earlier this year, and he listened, Kay listened, or I listened, and was really glad that he did because he became very ill afterwards. So that fits in the sense that if you are showing up as the world is the one who is self-reliant, mature. She knows how to handle herself, right? And so if you are giving advice to this person, I think he'd be really glad of that. K would be really glad of that, because if I is showing up as a page of coins, that suggests that K doesn't totally trust him with money right now. Like, not that he thinks there's anything nefarious going on, but think about if you give money to a page, to a child or to a teenager, are they going to do the right thing with it? Maybe, but they might lose it or spend it on candy, or, are they going to invest it wisely? I wouldn't necessarily give money to a page with the expectation that they would invest it wisely in the business. Does that make sense? And so if Kay is seeing him as a page, then there you go. Okay, so that brings us to April. So April, if you're here, please let us know. Cool, April's here. Fantastic. You're welcome, Jean. You're very welcome. All right, so April says, what does Beza think and feel towards me? All right. Let's shuffle the cards and find out. All right. What does Beza think and feel towards April? Three cards for April. All right, 4 coins. Ooh, 9 cups. 8 cups. Can I ask, April, is this potentially a love interest or is this just a friend or acquaintance? Because with all the cups here, it'd be helpful for me to just know that little bit of context, whether this is someone who might have a romantic interest, or are we just in the context of a friend or acquaintanceship? Or do you, if you don't know, that would be useful information too. Just because it's a lot of cups, right? Okay, your first crush, but you had a feeling it was mutual. Okay, great. So I think it is mutual. So we'll just read left to right. 4 coins with you see the shield in the middle here. This is about, there's no news. Nothing is changing. Things are just the way that they are. And there may be a feeling of needing to be on the defense, right? If we see the sort of shield here, someone like putting up a defensive. But 9 cups, this is the heart's desire. In classical cartomancy, the 9 of hearts, the 9 of cups, this is what you really want. This is your desire. This is what like makes you get out of bed in the morning. This is sometimes known as the wish card, right? Like if supposedly in classical cartomancy, when this card comes up, it means you're going to get your wish, right? And then with the 8, this can also often be about flirting, right? It can also be like a party or a social gathering of some kind in which you have 2 people, right? These 2 cups in the middle. There's other people around, right? The other 6 cups, but these 2 are singled out in the center and they're closer to one another than the other cups are, right? And so I think it is mutual. I think at first, from her perspective, Beza's perspective, it's like nothing can happen about this, right? Like there's a sense of her needing to not invest herself in thinking about you and of putting up a kind of shield, putting up defenses, right? But she would only need to do that if the truth is there was some desire there, right? And that she wanted to act on it. And that's moving into a realm where she's feeling like wanting to flirt. Let's put it that way, right? So, what does she think and feel? She feels really solidly that she's interested in you, in at least flirting and exploring to see like where this could go, right? I do think there's a feeling, I think there's a little bit of I won't say fear, but defensiveness, right? We see with this big shield. We could think about the way that, do you see how the shield here turns into the 2 cups that are centered in the middle of the final card? And so there's a feeling of like, remove the shield so that the 2 cups can come together, right? The 2 cups, of course, representing the 2 of you. So it might be worth Well, flirting a little to sort of open a pathway in that direction and indicate to her that if she were to flirt back, you would be amenable to flirting. Yeah. So that's what I see here. 4 coins, 9 cups, 8 cups. You're welcome, April. You're very welcome. So that brings us to Tori Marie. And let us know, April, if you want to. Obviously, no pressure, but I always like to hear back with an update for folks who are interested in sharing. So Tori Marie is next. So Tori, if you're here, Tori, let us know. All right. Tori wants to know, what will my next relationship be like? We can definitely do that. And Tori says, hopefully it's soon. I'm fed up of being single. All right, let's find out. What will Tori's next relationship be like? And meanwhile, I'll just remind everyone, I have donations open if you want to help support the channel, and you can find the link in the video description or in the pinned chat message. I'm also available for paid private readings, and you can shoot me an email if you want at tarot.hermit.lantern@gmail.com, or there's a link tree in the video description with more information about my paid private readings. All right, so for Tori, what will Tori's next relationship be like? All right, 3 cards for Tori. Oh dear. Le Diable. Okay. L'Amoureux. Wow. L'Étoile. Okay, so the Devil, the Lovers, and the Star. Look at that. So we've got 3 Triumph cards or Major Arcana cards, however you'd like to put it. Wow. There's a lot going on here, Tori. You asked, what will the relationship be like? It's going to be a whole lot of everything. Okay, so we'll look at this left to right, and I have a number of things to say. So the first thing that I notice, of course, is the Devil. And on the Devil card, we have 3 figures, right? The actual Devil, and then the 2 sort of smaller imps, right? And then on the Lovers card, we have 3 figures, and we go from 2 small figures and a big figure to 3 figures that are all the same height. I think, so to speak, that size matters in the tarot, and so the fact that the figures go from being different sizes to all the same size is important. So there may be an issue with your next relationship of a third party who is involved or interfering, or like it could be someone's ex, or this is not going to be a quick and easy, like two people get together. There's 3 figures here. There's 3 figures here plus Cupid up in the sky, right? And so there's a really strong suggestion of a third person involved in some way, right? So that would be something to watch out for. I will say that seeing the devil here indicates this is someone who you're going to feel very strongly attached to. And I mention that because, of course, of the way that on the devil card, the 2 imps are tied, or in some decks they're chained to one another, right? And so it's like the devil is really attractive, really sexy, really fun, right? And that can be awesome, although you have to be careful with it too, because just because you're having a good time doesn't necessarily mean it's good for you, right? So that's the first major thing I think to look out for. I think it's going to be someone who you are really attracted to, rather, but who may have some complicated stuff going on, right? That involves a third party, a third person, right? And so this is going to mean that there's some ambivalence, some hesitation. Like, it might be hard to get this person all to yourself, right? If you see on this card the way that we've got this figure in the middle, and then these 2 other people are both sort of vying for their attention, right? Like, come with me, no, come with me, do what I want, do what I want. It's that kind of dynamic of this person is caught in the middle and doesn't necessarily know what it is that they should do. And so you're sort of waiting for this person to choose you, but there's just waiting, that kind of thing, right? And that could be potentially frustrating. And then what? The star. So with the star, we see a single figure alone, pouring these 2 vessels out, right? The common interpretation of the star is that it's about hope and inspiration. It's about being guided, right? If you think about the way that we can use stars to help guide us, right? Like a ship in the North Star and that old thing, right? And so, I could imagine someone reading this and saying, you're going to meet someone who's devilishly attractive, but who you can't quite get to commit to you, right? But there is hope. Yeah. On the other hand, seeing this woman sort of on her own suggests to me, and if you look at the way that she pours the liquid out as though she's giving and giving and giving, but she's still sort of on her own. My suggestion to you would be that when this person who you find so devilishly attractive comes along, but you can't get them to commit, I would be a little bit careful about giving too much of yourself, right? Like, maybe it would make sense to be a little more reserved. Don't give so much of yourself that you're going to get too hurt, because the other thing here is, of course, she's not wearing any clothes. She's vulnerable, right? She doesn't have like armor on or anything. And so on the one hand, that's great because when you're vulnerable, that's how you can build a relationship with someone. But if that person is not committing to you in the way that you want them to, then you can get hurt, right? So to boil this all down and try to pinpoint answer your question, what is your next relationship going to be like? It's going to be with someone who you feel strongly attracted to, but who isn't necessarily ready to commit right away. And so you may find yourself giving too much to this person. And so that's something that you would want to be careful of, I think, right? The other thing we can think about is, do you see how there are 3 winged figures? There's 1 winged figure on each card. On the first card, it's the devil. The devil has the big wings. In the second card, it's Cupid, right? And in the third card, it's this tiny little ibis bird, right? And so we could say that the devil, and here I mean the trouble in the relationship, gets further and further away, right? If the devil's here and then flies up but shrinks into Cupid, and then look how far away, they're not gone, but they're smaller and smaller and smaller. And so this would be a reason to think it may make sense if you're in this for the long haul when you meet this person. If you give it time, there may be reason to trust and hope and wait, because this third-party devil person, whoever it is, their ex or their parent or whatever it might be, is going to recede into the background over time. But I would still, I wouldn't want you to get hurt. And so be careful of letting yourself be too vulnerable in waiting for this person to commit. So there's my answer for you. Very attractive, but non-committal. And so just don't let yourself get hurt. Have fun and consider waiting for this person if you think it's worth it, but don't get stuck, right? Anytime you see the devil card, it's like, don't get stuck there. Don't get chained up. Visit the devil, but don't live there, right? Okay, that brings us to Love B. And so next up, we've got Love B, and then it will be Bukal, followed by Zozoya, followed by Blessings. All right, Love B is here. Hi, Love B. And Love B says, hi, my name is Walls. Is Emmanuel romantically attracted to me? All right, let's see. Is Emmanuel romantically attracted to Walls? Or maybe it's Vols. Okay. Let's find out. We'll pull 3 cards. And meanwhile, I'll remind you, my donations are open. If you enjoy what I do here on the channel and want to help encourage and support me, I appreciate it. I am also available for paid private readings. You can email me at tarot.hermit.lantern@gmail.com, or you can check out the Linktree link in the video description for more information. Okay, so is Emmanuel romantically attracted to Vols? All right, 3 cards. Let's see. Judgment. Justice. And 5 swords. Okay, so I think the answer here is I don't think so. And I can explain why. But I don't see a romantic dynamic in these 3 cards here. So with Judgment, we see an angel up in the sky blowing a horn or a trumpet, and lots of other people are listening, maybe waking up, right? Like the public is waking up to this announcement. So we can think here with Judgment of the public, lots of people, or maybe some kind of announcement or like a phone call even. Like if you have called out to this person in the past, they or made like an announcement of your interest in this person, they then have carefully considered it. The figure on the Justice card, this is a very discerning person. This is someone who takes their time to make decisions. They're not going to think rashly or quickly about what to do, and they tend to make the right decision, although slowly, right? But this is someone very discerning. In other words, someone who, right, if you see like the scales here, it's like they have to weigh things out so that it's exactly right. Exactly right. Picky might be another way to put it. Someone who's very, very picky, right? And the 5 of Swords, when we have a yes or no question, which is what we have, and the 3 cards ends with a sword, the answer generally is no, right? Cups would indicate usually a yes. And so with the 5 of Swords, this card, I'm trying to think of the right way to put this. The nicest way I can think to put it is to say I don't think that he's interested romantically. I think that there are lots of people around. He's incredibly picky, and you're not his type. That's I think the best way that I would put it. We could look at the way that the 1 sword that Justice holds multiplies into 5 swords. And so just think about the function of a sword and what a person does with a sword. A sword we use to fight with. A sword we use to defend ourselves or attack, right? If it were like a cup, some number of cups, then I could say, well, yes, he's interested because he wants to like share a drink, or with cups we refresh ourselves and they're sweet and all of that. But or with batons, we could say maybe he finds you like interesting in a social kind of way or wants to compete with you. You mentioned that it sounds like you go to the same gym, right? But I think this is someone who's really picky. I think this is someone who maybe plays the field a lot. Like with the Judgment card, there's lots of people around. And so I think this might be the kind of person who is a little more picky and yet potentially non-committal. Like they want to date lots of people as opposed to committing to one person in a romantic kind of way. So I know that's probably not what you want to hear from these, but that's what I would see here is probably a no. Yeah. I will also add, of course, as I tried to mention at the beginning of the video, that like, oh, good. I'm glad this is very helpful. Great. Yeah, you know, so I sort of think that one of the things the tarot cards can do for us is, in order to find peace in our lives, we need to accept the way things are when there are things we can't change, right? And in order to accept things, we need to see them clearly. And I think the tarot allows us to see things clearly that otherwise we maybe couldn't see clearly. And so if this is giving you clarity so that you can accept the situation for what it is, so that you can find some peace, then I feel like I have accomplished a goal. All right, so that brings us to Bukal. If you are here, Bukal. And if you all enjoy my channel and want to help support it, donations are open. You can find the link pinned in the chat, or there's a link in the video description too. You're welcome, Love Bee. Okay. So Bukal says, so what's next in my love life? Marriage anytime soon? Any relationship? Maybe give me some guidance. Okay. So we'll do a love reading for Bukal. All right. What is next in Bukal's love life? What is next in Bukal's love life? And again, the devil. Second time today, we've done a love reading and the devil has come up as the first card, followed by 4 swords. But they turn into 4 cups. Okay. Okay, so let me tell you what I see I think you're kind of stuck at the moment. There's the first two cards, the Devil and the Four of Swords, indicate a lack of movement, right? With the Devil, we can think of being in bondage, stuck in some way, right? And of course, the imagery of the cords or the chains there. And then with the Four of Swords, this is being stuck in the mud, stuck in the mire, problems that like won't quite go away, little irritations that just sort of add up but don't change, right? There is a sense in the whole reading, though, of improvement in the way that the figure of the Devil becomes a flower, right? If you look at like what's center on this card is the Devil, and what's center on this card, it's a flower. So there's a softening that happens, a lightening of things. Instead of being stuck to the Devil, there's a sense of being overly protective, perhaps, but there's something inside in the center which is growing in a beautiful way. And then what happens? The swords disappear, and instead of swords, we get cups, meaning problems turn into good times, right? So there's hope here, but whatever it is that has got you stuck where you're at, it's something you're going to have to work through. In a sense, the Devil has got you stuck, right? Not literally, but the Devil represents, depending on who you ask, the Devil represents something which is really attractive to you and yet which prevents you from advancing. And so you will know from your own life better than I would know what that might be, right? Classic interpretations would be things like over focus on material possessions, or believing that there's no such thing as a spiritual life, that kind of thing, right? For me, it's a little more like whatever it is that you think, well, this is the way things have to be, right? Think about for yourself, is there a voice in your head, or maybe there's an actual person, maybe the Devil represents an actual person in your life who is suggesting to you that the way things are is just the way things have to be, right? And that there's nothing you can do to change it, and you just have to accept things for how they are, right? That voice or person needs to be carefully examined and replaced with a sense of growth, right? The flower replaces the Devil. The flower grows where the Devil stagnates, right? And the flower has to grow amongst the swords, right? And so, which makes it quite a challenge for the flower to grow. And the flower is a metaphor, obviously, for your own self. So I think that some growth needs to happen in how you conceptualize what is possible for you in your life. Yeah. And that once that happens, your heart can sort of steady itself. And that will prepare a way for a deep relationship to happen. So that's the suggestion. I mean, the one other thing I think I would add then is the flower in the center really becomes this big flower in the middle. If you see, we have the 4 cups, of course, but the flower gets bigger, right? So to summarize, the person or voice in your life that is holding you back, you've got to get rid of them, and you need to do some soul searching and there's some growth that needs to happen, I think, on your part, right? The devil turns into the small flower, which turns into the big flower. So if you can think for yourself, what is it? What is the pattern of thinking, or if there's a person in your life who maybe is a voice that is telling you things have to be like this, or you're never going to find anyone, or you have to just settle, or whatever it might be. Instead of focusing on that, figure out how you can improve yourself. It's almost like, rather than focusing on finding a relationship, focusing on improving yourself. Because once you improve yourself, the relationship will just happen. Right? Often it's when we're not trying to date or not trying to be in a relationship that we find a relationship. Okay, and then you ask about timing. So for timing, I would look at the final card of the spread, right? And I associate each of the suits with a season, right? And so spades or swords are winter, right? And then cups are summer. Coins are spring, and batons are fall in my system. And so we're in summer now, right? But you have to go through winter to summer. And so this is telling me like a year, which I know probably sounds like a very long time, right? But the last card would say summer, but is it this summer? That would mean it's happening immediately, right? And seeing the swords card indicating winter suggests to me going through winter to the next summer. So it's sort of suggesting, like, rather than focusing on a relationship, focus on making yourself a better person, whatever that means to you, right? Like reading or working out or learning a language or advancing in your job, or like whatever it means to you to improve yourself. Focus on that, and then the relationship stuff will follow more naturally, which of course doesn't mean like just isolate yourself socially or anything like that. But I don't think that focusing exclusively on the relationship is necessarily going to lead to the relationship. So I have 2 more on my current free readings list. I have Zozoya. So if you're here, Zozoya, let us know. And then after that, we have Blessings. Okay, we have a question from Zozoya. You're welcome, Bukal. So Zoya says, what is the most prominent spiritual lesson my current life phase is trying to teach me? All right. My name is Zainab, and thank you. You're welcome. All right, let's see. We'll pull 3 cards for Zainab. All right. What is the most prominent spiritual lesson Zainab's current life phase is trying to teach them? Three cards. Okay, King of Swords. The Tower. Ooh. And Two Cups. Okay, so the King of Swords, this is often someone in your life, probably a guy, an older guy, who maybe doesn't have your best interest in mind, or he just might be kind of grumpy, right? So if you can think of a guy in your life who's like, and it could be a landlord or someone at work, your boss, can be a cop, can be like anybody in your life who like potentially could cause trouble for you, right? This is suggesting that that person is likely going to be successful in kind of disrupting something in your life, right? Look at the way that the King of Swords is watching or looking at the tower. It's as though he's just knocked it over with his sword, right? And then these two people in the tower are like falling out of the tower because there's like all this disruption that's happening, right? So if someone comes along and disrupts something in your life, the lesson is it's not your fault. This other person has the power to do that, and so they are responsible for it. And it's going to be okay, because look at the way the two figures, I'm not sure if you can see them. There are two human figures that fall out of the tower. So this could be you and a significant other, or you and a friend, falling out of the tower. But then Two Cups suggests everything is fine for them in the end, right? Someone else maybe causes some trouble for them so that they fall out of their tower, but then they're on equal footing. They and everything turns out fine, right? So the spiritual lesson, then, to put it into the context of the specific question that you asked, is when there are people out there or a person out there who maybe doesn't wish you well, or maybe specifically doesn't wish your relationship with someone else well, like when there's a third party interference between you and someone else and they cause you trouble, trust that the two of you are going to see it through okay in the end, right? Even if this person can disturb or upset things for you, in the end, it's not going to matter, right? Because everything's going to balance out. Everything will balance out fine after the disruption. So you have to endure it. This is not a fun time when the tower falls. That is not a fun time. But this is, you just have to wait for it to pass. I mean, maybe you've heard the phrase, this too shall pass. That might be the lesson. The spiritual lesson here is when bad things happen, especially when it's because there's a third party or someone out there who's like got it in for you or just doesn't like you for some reason, it's temporary. It will pass. You're welcome, Zozoya. You're very welcome. So that brings me to the last free reading of the day, which is Blessings. So if you're here, Blessings, let us know. So if you're here, Blessings Y2Z, you're the last on my list. Blessings Y2Z. If you are here, I will do a reading for you. Okay, I think we don't have Blessings Y2Z. All right, so I think what I'm gonna do is take a little break just for a moment, and then I'll come back and see if anyone would care to donate for a reading. Otherwise, I'm gonna end. So let me put that in the chat. Taking a break. And then let's do $10 donation readings. Okay, so taking a break, and then when I come back, we'll see if anyone's interested in donation readings. Otherwise, I'll call it for the day. So I'll start the break now just for a few minutes, and then I'll be back. Okay, so took a little break, and I'm going to use the rest of the time to do $10 donation readings. So let me just put a note in the chat. All right. Did I do that right? Does this? Yeah. Okay, so I'll stay on for, well, we'll see if anybody is interested, but and if they're not, that's okay. In the meantime, I think what I'll do is a reading for myself. And I can show a technique that I use if anyone is interested in seeing it. You know, I read for myself a lot. And I find that the best readings always begin with a question. I will do general readings, but I find that at a very minimum, I need to know some area of life that I'm reading about, right? Like, are we looking at love or work or money? Like something to help me circumscribe what I see in the cards and make sense of it. And so when I'm reading for myself, though, sometimes I don't have a question, or what I need is the cards to tell me what the question is, right? And so here's a trick that I'll use sometimes. Sometimes I will pull 2 cards to help me formulate a question, and then pull 3 more cards as an answer to that question. So I'm going to do that now for myself, and you all can see what that looks like. And hi, Maria Scorpio. Welcome. I've made it all the way through the free readings list. I'm doing donation $10 readings now for the rest of the live stream. Okay, so I'm going to shuffle cut. And then I'll just pull 2 cards. And the first 2 cards are going to be the question. Okay, so we've got the Page of Swords. Right. I know exactly what this is. Page of Swords and 4 Cups. And so if I'm reading for myself and I'm like, I don't know, or another person, and if I don't have a question, or if this other person says, I just don't have a question, I don't know what to ask, then I'll pull 2 cards and I'll say, okay, this is your question, right? And so I'm reading for myself now. And so I would say, all right, there's something to do with a troubled youth in your family. What's going on with that person? That's the question, right? So now I have a question. I didn't even have to think of the question. The cards tell me what the question is, right? And when I looked at these, I knew immediately what it was, because it's sort of like a Rorschach test, right? Like, you look at a blot of ink on paper and you say, oh, well, that's obviously the day that my father walked out on us, right? And it's like, no, it isn't. It's ink on paper. But when your mind sees that specific shape, it tells you what you're actually concerned about. It tells you what's important to you, right? And so I know that there's a troubled youth in my family. I'm not going to say specifically who this person is or details, but like let's say they're currently incarcerated, right? So I'm not even going to shuffle again. I'm going to keep the exact same cards that I have already set up here. And I'm going to say with these, what is the question? What is going on with this troubled youth in my family, right now? And so I'm going to pull 3 cards to answer that question. Okay. So a baton, a queen of coins, and a knight of coins. All right. So what's going on with this family member of mine who's having a hard time? He has some new task or duty before him. Could be a job. And the reason I say job is that we see things with money happening, right? Money, job or work, and then money, right? And so he's found perhaps a means of generating an income. There's a woman who will give him money if he will work for it, right? And then maybe we have him here progressing and developing himself, so to speak, towards investing himself in this new arrangement, right? So even though I read this first court card in the 2-card pull to generate the question, I read this first court card as being this family member of mine, right? That doesn't mean that for the 3 cards that come below that perhaps a different court card could also represent that person. And that is indeed how I'm reading it in this particular layout, right? So I think that he's doing better than he was doing. I think of him as being like a troubled youth in my family, right? But maybe in actuality, what's happening is he's taken on a new job or duty or task in his life that is important and that is rewarding him in some way related to some intelligent woman, right? And he's riding forward with it. And like he's picked up the baton. We see the baton is here, but then also if there's a figure with a baton here. So he's taken on the challenge, taken on the duty of this task, right? And pursuing on his metaphorical horse, earning some funds, or at a very least investing himself in something which he finds valuable and important. The other thing I could do here is look at the surprise card to see with these 3, he's moving towards something. What is it? The Pope. Well, maybe he's going to school as well. This could be a job and school, or the task itself, the new task, could itself be school. I say school because I often read this card as like a teacher, right? The Pope is, we see the older bearded gentleman who's in an authority position, and then the 2 students down below. We can see the hand and the heads of the 2 students down below, right? And so maybe he's enrolled in school. I unfortunately don't have contact with him, so I can't really verify this at the moment. So broadly or generally speaking, I could say something like his life is improving. I definitely see things on an upward slope. All right, so I'm doing $10 donation readings for anyone who may be interested. You can donate using the link that is pinned in the chat. The link for donation is also available in the video description. Feel free to shoot me an email at tarot.hermit.lantern@gmail.com if you are interested in having a reading here in the live stream or in scheduling a paid private reading. I am available for those as well. You can also check out the Linktree link in the video description for more information about my practice, my tarot practice, and about how to schedule a reading. But if you just want a quick one here on the live stream today, I'm available for those as well for a $10 donation. And welcome to anyone who might be joining. I'm Will from the Hermit's Lantern Tarot, doing some live tarot readings today. Let me know if you are interested in a reading. Okay, I think I'm going to do one more reading for myself. This time I know what the question is. I'm not going to go into detail about it because it's my own private life. But I'm curious at the moment what a particular person is thinking about me. So let's do a little spying, shall we? And meanwhile, I am available for readings. Right now, I'm doing $10 donations for 3 cards. I am Will from the Hermit's Lantern Tarot. I'm also available for paid private readings. Check out the link tree in the video description for more info. All right, so this reading is for me. I want to know what a certain person is thinking about me at the moment. And so I'm going to pull 3 cards for that. This is someone I've known for just a few months and recently had a particularly interesting interaction with them. All right, here we go. 3 cards. All right, 2 batons. Ooh, okay. The Tower. And 3 swords. Okay. So this person is interested in making like an agreement with me. In classical cartomancy, the 2 of clubs or the 2 of batons can mean like a handshake, right? And so like making a deal with me, or we might say being friends, right? In the sense that in a social relationship with someone, you shake hands, right? But there's a feeling of like disaster, right? Like this is all not going to work out because lightning is going to strike the tower and the 2 of us will have a falling out, right? The way that they fall out of the tower, right? So a desire to link up in a particular way, but a sense that it's not going to work out, that there'll be a great change, things falling out, and then feeling like because of that, something's been lost, right? Like something that could have been a nice interaction, it gets lost. And so I think right now that this person is feeling pretty pessimistic about the possibility for the 2 of us interacting in the future with one another. That's how I'd read these cards for me. Okay, so if there's anyone out there who's interested in donating for a reading, I am still available for that, but I'm reaching the end of the live stream, so if not, that's fine too. I've been going for almost 2 hours, and so I'm getting about to where I'd planned to end today. But I'll hang around just for another moment in case anyone would like to request a 3-card reading. You can also, of course, contact me by email at tarot.hermit.lantern@gmail.com or check out the Linktree link in the video description for more information. All right, so this will be my last call for readings. Otherwise, I think I'm going to call it, I'm going to end it for today. Thanks to everybody who participated and let me read for them. And if I wasn't able to read for you, I would love to read for you in the future. Until then, take care of each other, be kind, and I will see you all next time. Bye, everybody.